Standing outside the front window of a companion robot store, a young man named Levi stares at a female companion robot. He has never seen a female robot before. Back at the compound, all the worker bots were either male or androgynous. The visual is a shock to his senses after having been raised in a religious cult, which reminds him that he was cast out into the cruel world with only one change of clothing and a small sum of money, which currently resides inside a digital wallet in his front pants pocket. "Hello," says an older gentleman who steps outside the business's front door. "Want to come inside and take a closer look at Lucy?" he asks. "Oh, I don't have the money to buy such a creation like her," answers Levi. "I was just wondering if she is built around a GX3 frame with independent processors, or perhaps she is composed of synthetic muscle controlled by an AI with constant connection to the internet." The little old man scratches his chin while considering the young man. Then he asks, "How do you know so much about robots?" Levi answers, "The boys were taught trades where I come from, and I happened to apprentice with the man who was responsible for the upkeep of all the church's robots." A connection was made within the old man's brain, and he speculated, "I bet you're from that private town about 100 miles south of here, aren't you?" "Yes, I am, sir. My name is Levi. Pleased to meet you." "You can call me Mr. Joe," says the old man. "Let me ask you a question, son. Do you think you could rebuild a robot like Lucy there if you had all the parts and tools to do so?" Without hesitation, Levi responds, "Of course, Mr. Joe. I'll tell you what, Levi, my repair guy/salesman quit on me last week, and I'm looking for a new employee. You interested in the job?" "Yes, sir, Mr. Joe. I'd be happy to work for you." "Not so fast, young man. I've got to test you first. Make sure you can do what you say you can do. Follow me to the workshop in back." Mr. Joe left Levi alone in the back room of the business, which doubled for a workshop. He had never seen such an unorganized mess in his entire life. Lying upon a workbench were parts of a female android that looked as if they had been stolen from a garbage dump. "Oh my," mutters Levi, "what have I gotten myself into?" He studies the broken robot and begins formulating a repair plan. He makes note of what tools and parts are needed for the job and begins rummaging through the room, hoping to find what he needs. After 8 hours of physical and mental strain, an intact female robot sits upon the workbench with her legs crossed and her eyes following Levi around the room. "Finished yet?" asks Mr. Joe as he walks into the workshop. "I'm as finished as I can with what tools and materials I've been provided with," states Levi. "Wow," exclaims the old man. "She looks brand new. Can she walk and talk and well, you know?" "Technically speaking," says Levi, "she is fully functional. However, she would be 10 times better if I had the proper tools and replacement parts." Mr. Joe asks the automaton, "What is your name, sweetie?" "It's Joy, but you may call me whatever you want, honey." "Incredible," says the little old business owner. "Levi, I think I might just have to keep her for myself." "Whatever you say, Mr. Joe. Did I get the job, sir?" "Yes, of course," responds the old man excitedly. "I can't afford to pay you what you're worth, but I'll give you minimum wage plus commission on whatever you sell, so it could amount to a decent sum when it's all said and done." "Thank you, Mr. Joe," says Levi. "Would it be all right if I sleep here?" "Huh," laughs the little old man. "I see you're cheap like me. You can sleep here as long as nobody finds out you're living here. I don't want code enforcement on my ass. Thank you, Mr. Joe. Can I suggest some better tools and materials that would enable me to do a better job for you?" "Ah," responds the old man. "See, here's the problem. My business is selling very used companion robots to customers who can't afford anything better. If I buy better equipment and proper supplies, then I would have to charge more for the bots, and then my clientele couldn't afford to buy from me anymore. See?" "I understand, sir," answers Levi. Mr. Joe smiles and adds, "A perk of the job is that you can cut off the security cameras and try out the merchandise, after hours of course." "Thank you, Mr. Joe, but I don't think I'll be taking advantage of that particular perk, sir." "As you wish," states the little old man, "but it's always an option if you change your mind." Over the next few months, Levi adjusts to his new job. In the beginning, Levi thought the clientele would be perverts dressed in raincoats with nothing underneath, but he found out there was no such thing as a stereotypical customer. Some were dirt poor guys who somehow scraped together enough funds to buy a companion bot. Some were geeks and nerds who just want someone to be their friend. And some were old people who wanted actual companionship, faux rich people who wanted servants to serve cocktail wieners at parties. And yes, there were real-life perverts and people with mental disorders, but Levi was able to handle the uncomfortable situations for the most part. However, when things began to get heated and dangerous, a Hearst security android stepped in to calm things down. Everything within the business was either second-handed or incredibly old, but Mr. Joe sprung for the latest and very best security robot that money could buy, not out of largesse, but out of necessity. One day during a time when the store was void of customers, Levi sat in a chair and stared out the front window at the people passing on the sidewalk. His mind drifted back to his time in the compound at the religious cult. A thought crosses Levi's mind that the people he was raised by would be flabbergasted if they knew what he was doing for a living. They would testify that he was going to burn in hell for repairing and selling companion bots. The fact that every man in the cult had multiple wives and banished their sons from their houses to keep the female-to-male ratio high was somehow okay. The truth of the matter was that Levi held a grudge against every member of the cult and dreamed of the day when he could enact his revenge. He knew his thoughts were those of a madman, an evil emanating from hell itself, but it made no difference. One day he would reap the reward of seeing pain and terror in the eyes of those people. Aside from his psychopathic tendencies, there was the problem of how to enact a successful raid upon the small town. The cult leaders had the place fortified and were armed to the teeth. They were prepared for a government incursion, so Levi stood no chance by himself unless he had two armies of robot soldiers, an army to secure the small city and another army to keep outside forces from rescuing the cult. The vengeful expedition would undoubtedly cost multiple fortunes. Levi is jostled from his thoughts as a fat man with a gorgeous lady on his arm enters the store. "Is Mr. Joe in today?" asks the heavy man.